Hello everyone, I'm Alexandra Kozma, your host, and this is Travel Light Conversations with Friends of the Heart, with my next guest, TAHSHA RENEE, who is a Sacred Rage trauma coach, therapy coach, and I'm so happy that you accepted my invitation. Hello, TAHSHA.
Yeah, me too. I'm so excited to be here. Yay. Any chance I can get to, share what I do and my story and get to connect with you. You're incredible. So yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
That's great. So let's dive in. So my first question would be, what's your origin story about Sacred Rage? Because I'm following you on Facebook for like 3 or 4 years, and I always loved how expressive you are, how you don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck. That's true.
Yeah. And I used to talk this way also in my teenage years or so. But then somehow I just realized that it's not really part of my personality, but I enjoy it so much when it's authentic for someone. And I really feel like it is for you. So I really enjoy you just not giving a fuck. So maybe during this conversation, I will say it more because I know I can with you. It feels
Yeah,
good.
there's that permission, right? That permission that we don't really get in other spaces. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why my work is so successful is because people are like, oh my gosh, my whole nervous system like relaxes and can be like that authentic person, or they can try out the word fuck. To me, the word fuck is a portal. It's a sacred rage portal. It's a way to release. It's it's a way to activate your sacred rage. It's a way to liberate yourself and your voice and rebel in these ways that makes you feel powerful. Yeah. So, and there's a reason what I find is people who have a problem with the word fuck are the ones that actually need to be fucking saying it. Because somebody who doesn't have a problem with it isn't going to be offended or, oh my God, or any of the things if they hear, you or I saying that word, right? We're just, if you and I hear it, we're like, yeah, fuck yeah. But other people, when they're just like so offended by it, like, I'm like, yeah, you're the one that actually needs to do a fuck portal exercise for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So
And
thank you for that. I
also,
appreciate it.
yeah, and also the paradox of not giving a fuck, but at the same time you're also so deeply caring for women to unleash their full potential and power through your work. So I love the ambivalence of that too.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. Whoa. I mean, if I even like think about it too much, I just start to cry because I just am so deeply honored that I get to be a safe space for powerful women to come into their power, for women who haven't been allowed to exist in the ways that they should be allowed to. And when they come into my spaces, they do get to do that and something activates in them. So I'm just super, super grateful. Yeah. So my origin story is, I'm going to be 49 at the end of March. And I grew up in a household with a biological younger brother, a younger stepbrother, and a little bit older stepsister. So there were four of us kids. And then I had my dad and my stepmom. And I've always been outspoken, and I've always been somebody who, if my feelings are hurt, then you will know. And if I'm happy, you'll know. It's like, I can't, like, my emotions just are really kind of, up there and out there all the time. And so my father and my stepmother, my father really is my stepmother. I could, whatever. But with my dad, I really wanted time with him. And the only time I ever got from him was when he was lecturing me. And when I would express that I want to spend time with him, he would tell me no, didn't have time or whatever the reasoning was. And I would get pissed off because sometimes it would take me 2 weeks to get the courage up to ask him to spend time with me because I knew he would probably say no. And so I would get rebellious and be a teenager. Fuck you. I hate you. You don't understand me. Just all the things that a teenager says when they're super pissed off. So fast forward, I carried this emotional rejection and abandonment into every aspect of my relationships in my life, and used to be the girl in her 20s who would, I think I've broken uncountable phones by throwing them. I've thrown a shoe through a window. My pinkies don't work properly because I punched so many walls. I just was very in my trauma response of fight, for sure. And then go further. So that's just kind of like where the original story kind of comes from. But then further into December of 2020, my life wasn't going the way I wanted it to go. I have this a deep awareness from a lot of shadow work that I've done around if things aren't going well in my life, it's probably something that has to do with me that I'm doing or not doing or whatever. So I started to go down the emotions. I was in my house by myself, going down the emotions, and I get to anger and my body reacts. And I'm like, wait, what? I mean, I had done so much work around anger at this point that it was angering that I had any more fucking anger left about anything, because I was like, are you serious right now? And so I was like, all right, well, let's try not to have judgment and let's see what we're still mad about. So I started to name off the things that I used to be angry about and see if I was still angry about them. And wow, was there not only some things, but a lot of things. I walked around the house naming off everything I was pissed off about for 20 minutes. And how fast I talk, I'm mad because of this. I'm mad because of that. I'm mad at so-and-so for that. Fuck so-and-so for that. Fuck, I hate you. Like all these things were just coming out of me. And I was like, okay, fuck. So while this was happening, this kind of like tornado feeling started to like happen in my body. And I was like, whoa, like something's happening, something's shifting, right? So I'm like, I'm going to keep going with it. So I am psychic. I do not hear or see spirit. I have the gift of claircognizance and clairsentient, which is feeling and knowing. But when somebody is passed over, I can sense their energy if they are in my energy, especially if I've known them before. And about 3 months before this, ex-boyfriend from high school had passed over. And all of a sudden I felt his energy and I just stopped in the kitchen and I heard him say, let it all out. And I grabbed the stove and I screamed this crazy scream that has never come out of me before and has never come out of me since. It felt like it rolled up from my toes and like out of my mouth. It was this deep, almost like like demonic sounding, just dark shit that came out of my body. And it was a pretty short scream. It wasn't that long. And when it was over, I felt freer, lighter, clearer, happier, stunned, shocked. I was like, oh my God. And my old Facebook page, I was like, I got to get on Facebook and tell everybody about this. I don't know what I was trying to tell them, and just the experience I had, I guess. Anyways, I get on there and I start telling it, and you see it in the video. I get this message from God. And I look up and I go, oh, I think I'm supposed to do a program around this. Well, that was like 4 years ago, over 4 years ago at this point, which was crazy because there was literally nothing being done in this aspect, right? I mean, people were even more, to fucking anything that had to do with anger and diving into that and how scary that sounded and all the things. And so, yeah, that's really kind of where it started. And it's come into what it is today. So that's the origin story.
Wow. And also, I guess there are so many layers to this. So we always discover the next layer, and then also one of my favorite sentences from A Course in Miracles, because you also love Jesus. I mean,
Yes,
in
I
this
love
pathway
Jesus.
of the way of mastery, we call him Jeshua. I don't know whether it's okay for you. So I just
Yeah,
get used to it, calling him Jeshua. So he
yeah, of
always
course.
says, that what you teach is what you would learn. So it's always in the process of going to the next layer, and as we share and process, that's what we can convey and communicate through the embodiment. Because
Yeah,
without embodiment, it's just information, and it's not that helpful.
correct. Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, when you're doing, in my opinion, anger release work is the deepest work you'll ever do besides sexual trauma work. Those two things are the deepest work you're ever going to do, right? So when you're doing some of the deepest work ever that's out there, you better believe it's going to make you like really have to go through your own stuff, and even more shadow work stuff comes up, right? I remember the first day of the first program that we did. It was another woman that I had also started it with me. But anyways, I remember talking to her and being like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do it. What if they don't like it? What if they can't scream? What if they won't scream? What if I do it wrong? What if, like, there was all these like self-doubt and imposter syndrome stuff coming up, because again, there was no rule book for this. I was just flying by the seat of my pants, going off a message that I gotten from, you know, obviously something I should trust, but was still difficult as a human. And she gave me some of the most powerful information that I have passed along to everybody. And she goes, then don't. And I was like, what do you mean don't? That means that the people who aren't going to get their stuff, she goes, aren't going to get their healings and stuff. And she goes, well, you have to ask yourself, like, is that something you're willing to risk outside of you, you know, for you to not do this? Is that where you want to go with this? Like, what does it mean for you not to do it? And that made me think. And I was like, oh God, like I don't, I'm being called to do this. I need to step into that and do it. And I did it. And it was fucking amazing. I had a woman in my very first program who had a year of TMJ so bad in her jaw, she had to have medication and a night guard every night to sleep. And after that one scream session, that wasn't even what the scream session is now. Like the scream session has completely changed even from that first day. It was a pretty short scream session, like it was what I experienced, because I didn't really know any other way of teaching it, because that's all I had known. Anyways, she screamed that one scream, short scream, and she didn't need her, it was gone. She didn't have TMJ anymore. And the doctor was like, what did you do? She's like, I don't know. I guess I was pissed off. And he's like, okay, well, you know, keep doing what you're doing. And that was 4 years ago, you know, so pretty amazing things, you know. And so that kept happening, and it is still happening, to be honest. There's still things that I have to clear and embody, so to speak, and do my own work and do my own shadow work still. And my own anger work still comes up. Like I tell people all the time, like this work is not meant to make you not angry anymore. It's meant to make it so that the anger can move through you and out of you. It's so you have a relationship with it. It's so that you can stop trying to ignore a very human, natural, normal emotion that we all have as humans. And to remember that energy, the energy of anger, energy of anything, does not ever go away. Energy doesn't ever go away. It transforms into something else, something to work for you or something to work against you, something to heal you or something to make you sicker. And so when you understand that, then there starts to be this awareness of like, oh, I'm angry because there's something wrong. I'm angry because I'm angry at myself, or I'm angry because, you know, anger is a secondary emotion, right? It's connected to pain and the pain underneath it. And so what happens is when the original pain happens, if you don't have the option of saying that hurt my feelings, or working through that and having the tools to work through that, or you're abused further for speaking up, then it becomes anger. And if that anger then isn't dealt with, it goes one of two directions. It either represses more into your organs and makes you literally physically ill, excuse me, or it becomes violence and becomes outward and it becomes abusing and continuing the abuse cycle in your family. So it goes one of two directions. And I would say that even with the outward anger, there's still repressed anger underneath there as well, because yeah, I tell people all the time, you don't have an anger problem, you have a pain problem. But you have to let the anger out first to get to the pain underneath it. And I've noticed with my clients is when they allow themselves to get into the space to feel the anger first, that pain underneath there is kind of like, oh, there it is. I see it, you feel it, and it's very quickly shifts out. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not really that hurt by that anymore. I'm not that angry about that anymore. I've had people who have had the most, and I never say names or stories or anything unless I'm allowed to do that. So I'll make sure I say that. But I've had women who have had the most horrific, disgusting fucking things done to them by their mothers, fathers, grandparents, whatever, right? It's usually the mother, father though, or sibling. I mean, to the point where they've been carrying around this, they come into the session and they're like, I fucking hate this person. I don't want to fucking kill him. I wish he died. I want to watch them die. And I want to fucking laugh. I mean, just like the most horrific things that they're so full of just anger and rage, and rightfully so, that literally after one time of working with me, they're like, it's the weirdest thing. It's like I can think of them, and I'm still kind of like, you know, that irritates me, but it irritates me. It doesn't make me want to fucking kill them. And even like weeks, months, a year down the road, they still feel the same way. This isn't something that just is a one-time, something happens, you have to keep coming back to see me. I don't have repeat clients unless they literally are like, oh, I'm going through another layer of life. And I feel like I just want to be supported in that. And I want to work with you because I want to be supported in that. And I want to have that witnessing and know that I can just really get into it with somebody else. So yeah, that's my really long explanation of that.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Very helpful. What comes to mind is several things. Like first of all, for me, for this year, one thing that came in is just to really anchor anything that I do with this very simple sentence: this matters. I think that's so important. What you mentioned about what would happen if you didn't do this work, and then
Yes.
the difference with the awareness of it, that it matters so much, and it inspires so many people, and it just feels different in our body if we remember that. So I'm just
Yeah.
another person whom you inspired a lot, so that's why we're here. And
Thank you.
this came in so strongly to while I'm continuing my translations of the Way of Mastery, Joshua teachings from English to Hungarian. One of the things that came in, that if you don't give away your gifts and what you received, it will be taken away from you because you can't handle it. You can't be given more. And I really took that to heart. I mean, just removing that layer of the fear that you talked about too, and the fear of being vulnerable. So one thing I really looked up to you about is how you are without any censoring, and you just say what you mean. And that's actually one thing that I want to ask you about. Did you ever experience in your life, because at one point I think I used to be like that too, but then somehow I started to notice that maybe there are some people who take advantage of that. And I started to feel that maybe I need more discernment. So that would be a question for you. Like, did you ever notice that uh, it made it it made things harder for you, that you are so expressive, and how do you
Oh
handle
yeah.
that?
Oh yeah. I literally just got fired from a job for being too expressive, to be honest. And the thing I have to ask myself before I say something, and this is what I teach my clients as well, is like, am I getting ready to say this thing or express it in this way because I am in lack, because I'm an ego, because I am trying to harm somebody, because I'm just wanting to fly off the fucking handle and be in my power of my trauma fucking response? Like, why am I doing it? And if the reason is I'm doing it because my soul's telling me to do this, then that's what I'm going to fucking do. And in the workplace, of course, I can't be like, fuck, like all these things, right? I have to express it in a way that is still, which I did calmly, and express things the way that I needed to. And I've signed an NDA. This is how I know that I was also not in the wrong, because they made me sign an NDA. So I can't really talk about it exactly what happened, but I was very proud of myself because before I had come at even people in the workplace kind of however the fuck I wanted to. And that would get me fired as well. Because when I was like in my 20s, like 20 years ago, because that doesn't work in the workplace, right? So in the workplace specifically, yes, it can have its problems for sure. But again, and I had a manager, honestly, who really allowed me to kind of be myself in that environment. I really have like a hate-love relationship with her after everything, because I used to cry literally at the thought of her, because she really did hold space, especially at how young she was, for my emotions to literally like get used to the environment. And I was very angsty, and I was still explosive, and things, if I wouldn't talk about things right away, they would build, and then I would get blast out at somebody else at work. And it wasn't like this big fiery thing, but I would say something just snarky or whatever. And my version of snarky is like probably more than somebody else's because I'm already super expressive, right? So if I say something, it's like extra. So in that case, there's that. But I see it as a blessing, you know, proud of myself for sticking up for myself. That's how I saw it. I'm sticking up for myself. I, in my opinion, would be harboring more pain and creating more anger in myself if I didn't do and say what I needed to say in that moment, right? So that's that example. And yes, you know, I have friends who I'm very close to, about 3 friends. As you get older, you don't have a whole lot of them, I find, that are authentic to your life. And they can hold space for me just fine in how I express things. People online, yeah, I mean, I've definitely lost people when it comes to having opinions about things. I get a lot of, wow, you say you're so like for women and all these things, but you're totally telling me that you won't let me be on your page because, you know, whatever it is that they're doing that's making me feel like it's going against my morals. And again, that's the thing you have to remember is like, we can't please everybody. So when you're expressing, when your sacred rage has been activated, which is when you do anger shadow work and you do it at a very deep level, you have the ability to decide how you're going to deliver your anger. Now, is it done perfectly every time? No, as I just got through saying, I was in a workplace where I would sometimes pop off at people. But my pop off was way less than what it fucking used to be. But now, yes, like when I'm putting out a post or when I'm responding to somebody, there is kind of this like, this is my page, so I don't really give a fuck if you are like offended. And I am not friends with people who have taken my programs, who were very close to me, who I considered probably family. In fact, my ex-business partner is one of them. You know, so I think, again, it has to go to a space of, why am I doing this? Why am I saying this? And if I do happen to say something that is hurt somebody's feelings, or somebody says, I don't like the way you're saying that to me, and it's making me, then I have the ability to retain my anger inside of me and say, okay, is that person coming from a space? Did I say that shitty? Okay, I guess I did say it shitty. Fuck, I'm so sorry. Here, let me try to fix that for you. So it's a conversation. It's now a relationship instead of your trauma response taking over because you have this repressed anger that is fueling it. So does that answer your question?
Yes. So the way I would translate it for myself is you have some kind of a fail-safe system with this question inside. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there has to be a level of I don't give a fuck. If it's coming from a space of like, I'm doing this to help myself feel better about myself, like this, I'm doing it for self-love reasons. I'm doing it because, again, I need to stick up for myself, or I need to say how I feel. This hurts my feelings, like whatever. And I have the thought of like, oh God, what if this person gets angry? Like I still have those thoughts. It's still hard for me. It's still very hard for me to set boundaries with people. Sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes. I have a neighbor who's loud. I had to go down there and knock on their, and then look and talk into their Ring camera about how loud they were being. And that was like terrifying for me. I was like, oh God, fuck, I hate doing this. I'm like, what if they just get annoyed? What if they get louder? What if they hate me? I mean, I still go through all the things, but your sacred rage activation, what it does is it makes it so that you feel the fear and do it anyways. When you know that thing you're going to do is because you need to do it. And it's just, if you don't, shit's going to build inside of you. And now you're the one that is you're the one that's actually harboring all of the pain and all the shit. And it's just actually bad for you. Then you have this ability to feel that and still go do what's necessary for you and healthy for you.
Yeah. You know, for me, one of the first questions that I ask myself when anger shows up is, where am I people pleasing? So in my mind, it's always connected. Like anger is
Yes.
a sign of somewhere I'm submitting to something that I don't really want. It's just maybe I'm too afraid to claim it or own it. So
Yeah. And it's a real thing, especially for women. I mean, I am a recovering, however you want to say it, people pleaser for sure. I mean, my anger was, you know, I was taught by my family about my anger, that it was bad and wrong. And, you know, I was just this bad, wrong person because of it. And because of that, when I went out into the world, I was super happy all the time and super smiley because God, if somebody saw my anger, they're going to leave me like my family did. Like that was the thought process. And what's funny is that people would still say, why are you so angry all the time? What do you mean? What do you mean? Why am I angry all the time? I'm happy all the time. How can I help you? What can I do for you? And people saw through it. The energy still came through as like this, anger, which made me really fucking mad because I was trying really hard to not be angry. And so then I was really pissed because people could still see it and feel it, And I've lived in living situations where I've rented rooms from people where, yeah, people pleasing has to come into play, or I know I can sense it. I will just kind of come out of people pleasing for just like a moment, and their whole persona changes. And so I have to go back into people pleasing mode. Even with doing this program, I've lived with people where I had to be in people pleasing mode in order to make sure that my safety was completely, taken care of and I wasn't going to be homeless, So there's certain times when we have to come into certain things for survival mode. And it's not safe to not be that way, right? But yes, when you're now in a space where you don't have to do that and you have your own home and you have your own things, your own money coming in and all the things, then it's time to start dealing with, because people pleasing is a sign of repressed anger. I tell people all the time, people pleasers are the most pissed off people on the planet because they're stuffing and stuffing and smiling and smiling and stuffing and stuffing and smiling and smiling until they just fucking blow up. So you need to, in order to heal that, you do have to do some anger work. You do have to give yourself permission to be in a space where you can talk about why you're so fucking pissed off that you have had to stuff everything for fucking everybody else when they didn't give a fuck about you. And there's an anger that is very much running that space. And when, again, that's activated, then you're able to, yes, use it if you have to for survival mode, or tell somebody, actually, no, I don't like you treating me that way. I don't like what you just said to me. Fuck off. Whatever level that needs to be in that conversation, right? Then you're able to do that because what happens is, when we go to people please or do something that's keeping us safe, right? There's this fear and this thing that puts us into kind of freeze mode, the trauma responsive freeze mode, right? Where we can't like do the thing we need to. When you have your sacred rage activated and you do the anger shadow work, and that shadow is no longer a fucking shadow, it's actually in the light with you, then what happens is when you get into a situation where you normally would have froze down, and it's not survival mode, but that normal situation, then now that feeling of doing this is now this feeling of, oh, I cannot not say something. It's interesting, like your whole body starts to heat up and you just can't help yourself. You have to fucking say something. And if you don't say something in the moment, it eats at you until you finally fucking say something. Like, it's really interesting how it literally like flips back to where it's supposed to be. Because when you haven't done the anger work, it's inverted and it's actually working inward. It's like an implosion that's happening. And then when you get it activated, now it's an explosion, but it's an explosion that's controlled. It's you controlling it, not it controlling you.
Yeah, it's mastery.
It's mastery, most definitely. Yeah. And it's mastery that's easy. We think of the word mastery, we think, oh God, like all these things, we're gonna have to be an expert. Like, no, you just need to show the fuck up. You need to like give your little inner child, like usually the anger is like an inner teenager, most usually anyways. Or is it an angry little kid, or it's teenager stuff? Your teenager's the rebellious, like, which is what I kind of explained for my own story. But yeah, so when you give it that space, you become a master of it just from activating it, just from being able to be witnessed. I didn't even understand until recently, really, the power of being positively witnessed. I was going through some like sexual shame type stuff probably about a month or so ago. And I have a friend of mine on Facebook. Her name's Lauren Searles. She's amazing. And she usually helps men, through sexual type things and expression and all this wonderful stuff that she's just amazing at. And I had seeked her out for some of this stuff. And that's when I realized, I was like, I didn't feel comfortable really talking about this until I was talking to her about it. And I was like, oh, this is what my clients keep telling me. This is what they mean by I get into your presence and I feel like I can say all these things. I'm like, because in her presence, I was like, oh my God, I feel like I don't have any shame here. And I feel free to say what I want. I feel like I'm not going to be judged. And fuck, wow, does that feel amazing, right? Like, especially for anger, like where do moms have it? Where's the space? Where's the fucking space? Where's the space to fucking talk about the things that make you angry? There isn't one because you're too busy holding up the children, holding up the husband or the wife, holding up the family, cleaning all the things. You're too busy like compartmentalizing everything so that everything can be taken care of. Who the fuck takes care of you? And then you start biting at people, frustration, yelling, screaming, possibly some abuse in some aspects for some mothers, probably. You know what happens. Yeah, so definitely trying to create more spaces. You know, I have a free Scream event that I'm doing. This is one of the reasons why I got called to do this, because I'm like, I need to be creating more spaces where people can not only have a free space to do it, but can also get a taste for some of the work that I do so they can feel a little safer in my energy, because it is scary to think about. There's times when I need to scream my face off and I don't want to fucking do it. So like, you know, and there was times when I was telling this story to a lot of people, but recently I don't know about everybody else, but like automated systems will make me so fucking mad. They're not even a person. It's not even a thing, but damn it, do I fucking hate not being able to get through the automated system. Like it just drives me nuts. And I found myself like screaming like multiple times. And then on the third time, I kind of chuckled and I was like, wow, what the fuck am I so mad at? Because when I was yelling things like, I hate you, fuck you, I hope you die. Like I was like all these things. And I was like, who am I talking to? Like, obviously I'm talking to a person. Who the fuck am I still mad at? So I just kind of laughed and I was like, okay, so this is part of it, right? There's this awareness, this conversation that happens where you're like, oh, this is a reason for this. Instead of just being angry, there's an actual reason. And I realized I was still mad at my dad for some things. I was like, oh, this motherfucker, he just keeps coming up. And so I did some work with God and Jesus actually in that moment for myself. I figured I'd already been doing the screaming, so I don't need to fucking do that. So I have this process that I do, which I do teach some of my clients to do, and they just naturally go into it, some of my work. But I pull my father, whoever it is I'm pissed off at, in front of me. I pull their energy in front of me and I say the things that I want to say. Like, I'm still fucking mad at you for this, and fuck you. And like, you don't get to have power over me. And like all these things that whatever I say, right? And then I asked God to fucking take this excess anger from my heart. I don't want to carry this at him. I don't want to be angry at him. This fucking, it's weighing me down, man. I don't want it. I don't just take it. I don't want it. And then I got this message while doing that, because that's usually what happens when we do these things, that I needed my broken heart to be healed. And that makes me emotional still. Like my father broke my heart, you know, like often our fucking parents do. Our hearts get broken. And so I asked God to heal my broken heart. And I just remember asking for that and like just sobbing, just instantly sobbing uncontrollably, like, oh my God. But again, so what's happening here is I'm seeing the anger. I get to go, wow, what's this about? I ask and tackle it. I get angry about the thing, right? Which was me pulling my father in and saying the things I needed to. And then I asked God to take that anger from me. And what was underneath it? Pain. The pain. And guess what? Yeah. Guess what happened after that? Talked to like 2 more automated systems. Guess who wasn't screaming at the automated systems? Was I still irritated? Fuck yes, I was irritated. But I was not screaming anymore. I was not angry. I was not this volatile thing that needed some assistance, you know? So yeah, it's a really powerful thing to have, where you know the anger will no longer ever get stuck in your body again. It won't get stuck in your throat. That lump in your throat, that sinking, shameful feeling in your gut we get when it comes to wanting to speak or needing to speak, or even associate with having anger in the first fucking place, or angry at the person that you feel like you shouldn't even be angry at because they've done the best job that they can do. I hear that a lot. I have a hard time getting mad at my parents because they were abused and they had problems, and they weren't really bad people. You know, they really were just doing the best that they could. And I just feel guilty for getting mad at them. Like, you're not getting mad at them. You're getting mad at them in this container where they're not even here, so that you can actually get rid of that. Because I promise you, whether you do it or not, it's still fucking there. And it's the one that's now causing you the problem. It's not causing them problems. It's causing you problems. So we're going to get it up and get it out. We're not just going to get angry to get angry. We're going to get it up to remove it. We're giving a direction out of the body so that you can actually be closer to them. Because when all that angsty, nasty shit is gone, there's love left. there's happiness, there's joy because all the crap is gone. That means you can be closer to your parents, closer to your sibling, closer to your partner, yourself, God. I can't tell you how many times that people come in who are pissed off at God, don't even maybe completely believe in God, and then when it's over, they have a relationship with God. I had one woman who did my program, did a one-on-one with me, did a free scream event with me, worked with me for a month over just her normal other things. Anger was in there, but not really. And she was at the beginning going, I mean, I know who Jesus is. I know who God is. And I have a relationship, you know, kind of with God, but Jesus never really had a real connection with. And right after my program became not just somebody who believes, but a full-blown fucking Christian. I'm talking, go to church every Sunday, get baptized, fucking read the Bible to her children, like full-blown fucking Christian. The fuck? Huh? Like, when you do this work, it connects you with your authentic self. And your authentic self comes from God. Now, whether you believe that God to be nature, whether you believe it to be the fucking universe, whether you believe it to be your higher self, and you don't call it the things, fine, don't call it the things, I don't care. But it's going to get you connected to where you originally feel like you come from. Then there's no more anger left at that. There's only love. Doing anger work doesn't make you more angry. It makes you more loving, makes you more happy, makes you more tolerable, it makes you more resilient, makes you more powerful.
And going back to the trauma responses, do you also see that people pleasing is actually phoning? Because so many times,
That's what phoning is called.
they talk about like the 3 trauma responses:
Well,
fight,
there's
freeze,
4.
and flight, and then there's fawn, right?
Yeah,
And
fawning is people pleasing.
yes, I would say too. And what do you see? What's the difference in these trauma responses regarding the anger, or how it can be dissolved? Is there any difference, or your process works for all the different survival mechanisms?
Yeah, so I mean, when you've got any of it is really repressed anger, right? I mean, we already went over fight. That's pretty obvious. Fight's pretty obvious. I mean, you're obviously fucking angry all the time, right? Freeze is going to be that numbing space where you're just afraid to fucking do anything because you don't have, your voice isn't activated. You don't have the thing that's making you be able to feel the fear and do it anyways. So you just freeze and you can't move. And then that creates more shame and more fucking anger. Basically, a lot of people who freeze are angry at themselves. I hear that a lot. I'm so angry I couldn't leave. I'm so angry I couldn't speak up and say what I needed to say in that moment. I'm so angry I didn't ask for the promotion. I didn't take the opportunity. I didn't stick up for myself. Like, there, because I
And then
froze.
is it because that thing is gone, and then they don't know how to move past that, and then somehow like we have to call in a similar situation so we can choose again and decide
Oh,
differently?
yes. So you're talking about, yeah, like how patterns keep repeating until we actually do something different, right? Until we actually choose a different response. And really, honestly, I tell people all the time is like, when they do say things like that, like, oh, I'm so mad I couldn't do the thing. And it's like, you need to understand that you have trauma brain in that moment. You couldn't do that if somebody put a gun to your head. In fact, you probably freeze more if somebody put a gun to your head and made you fucking do it. Like, you have to, and that's when they start to have some compassion for themselves. Is like, oh, like my brain literally couldn't fucking work. You didn't have any other tools. You didn't have this activation. You didn't have this fire inside of you that was required for you to move out of freeze mode. You didn't have that. So yes, I think that those situations do keep occurring until you do something differently. And they're probably going to keep occurring anyways, because it's fucking human for us to still go through things that are going to make us possibly freeze up. But the difference is now is like, what I've noticed with clients is that it's your trauma. You still have your trauma response. I still have fight that comes up. I still have freeze that comes up, right? I still have people pleasing that comes up. What happens though is now your trauma response doesn't control you, it doesn't make a decision for you. Whereas before you're completely controlled by it, can't move, can't do anything, can't do whatever. Now what happens is it comes up and you're like, oh fuck, I'm in that fucking thing again where I'm freezing again, or I'm yelling at somebody again. Damn it, why is that happening? Like there's a conversation that's happening. There's an awareness that's happening. So now the trauma response is just, again, another indicator something's wrong. So how do I pull myself out of it? It's literally maybe for somebody that's freezing in the moment with somebody to be like, I can't talk about this right now. Like to talk during a freeze moment, that's huge. To be able to say their needs. Oh my God, I can't do this right now. I'm starting to freeze up and I just need a minute. Can I have a minute? Right? That's huge. And so that's being able to use your voice in that moment. So what we did fawning already. We did fight. We did, flight. Flight's one where you want to leave. It takes bravery and courage to stay in that space, right? When you're starting to feel that trauma response of, oh my God, I gotta go. Now, it might also be that in that moment, again, using your voice to say, I feel like I want to leave right now. I feel like my body, my skin's crawling and I need to get the fuck out of here. And I feel like I can't have this conversation and it's bringing up all kinds of things for me. And I feel like I want to fucking run. Hopefully you have somebody in front of you that's like, okay, we don't have to talk about it anymore. Oh, or what would you like to do to work through this in the moment? But again, you have to be able to have the courage and bravery to do that. Guess what anger is? Anger in action, in positive action, it's healthy, is courage and bravery. That's what it is.
And I think avoidance is also some kind of a flight.
That's flight.
Response.
That would be flight. Yeah, flight would be in avoidance because you're avoiding it. You're flying, right? You're flying out. Bye.
Yeah.
You're running. See you later. I'm going to avoid this entirely. Nope. So that would be another sense of wording when you're able to say it is like, I feel like I'm avoiding this. Hey, can we talk about this? I've been avoiding it. Every time you say that, it makes you try to avoid it. And I'm trying to figure out why I'm doing that. Can you have a conversation with me about that? Or you go and talk to a therapist, or you come find somebody like me, or like a friend, or somebody that would like talk to you, right? So that you can actually have the conversation and move it up out of your body.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is a fascinating topic, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's important. It's important to talk about, to talk more about, to give all of ourselves as well as others permission to really just get curious about this side of ourselves and allow this side of ourselves to exist. Because we can't be a whole person unless we're allowed to feel all of our emotions. And anger is the most misunderstood, unfortunately. Yeah. Well, sorry for anger.
Could you talk about your offerings now? And then I would like to close the first part with that. And then in the second part, we could talk more about Joshua and, non-religious relationship with Joshua and religious trauma. That would be my idea. But so this first part is complete. You could share about that.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So I have about 3 different ways now to work with me. One of them is one-on-one. I do a one-on-one sacred rage. All of my work is done by Zoom, by the way. Everybody's always just like, oh, I can't be in person. Everything's done on Zoom. I've been doing it for over 4 years. It's very successful this way. So it's a 2-day one-on-one session that I do. And I walk you through my 5-step process that has been proven to be successful. And then I have a 6-week women's group program that I do. That is my 5-step process, plus another couple exercises that I throw in there, and a Telegram chat that's open the whole time. And that's a 6-week process. And then the other one is I have a free Scream event. I don't know when this is going to be done, but I'm going to try to put them up more often. So even if it's after this one, when this gets put up, it's a free online Scream therapy event. So a shortened version of my 5-step process gets to be experienced. And it's done by free. It's Zoom. There's an event page. So if you go to Sacred Rage Healing, that is the name of my Facebook group. You'll be able to add yourself to that. It's under the events tab. And then I also have an ebook that I literally just made yesterday that does help to explain some anger and it has some exercises in it. And will help you to tap maybe more into that. Probably really good for people who don't really understand what sacred rage is, or like why anger is important, or if they have repressed anger. So help you to tap into that, be more comfortable with that. And that can be found on Amazon, and it is called Sacred Rage Therapy. So yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. You can also find me on Instagram under Sisterhood of Sacred Fire. I have a website, sisterhoodofsacredfire.com. You can email me at sisterhoodofsacredfire. That's the name of my business. So yeah, sorry. Wanted to make sure I put that in there.
Yeah, your links are going to be in the video
Oh, okay,
description
cool.
or the
Fantastic.
podcast description too.
Okay. Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for the first part of our conversation.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it a lot. And yeah, I feel I have a deeper understanding of the whole process too. So that's great.
I'm glad.
So thank you everyone for listening. And I hope you enjoyed it too and found it informative. And see you in the second part of our conversation. Bye.